A supernatural event occurred on the set of a horror movie. Two male leads died mysteriously. The surviving male understudy was possessed by a demon. What secret does this script hold? Anthony is an actor. He has just gone through a rough patch in his life. He became addicted to drugs. His wife passed away from cancer. Anthony and his daughter Helen are not close. To temporarily escape these troubles, he accepted an invitation to act in a horror film. He hopes to focus on his work. Anthony has been reading the script these days. Occasionally, he practices lines with his daughter. This time, he is playing the role of a priest. The lines are very complex. However, medication has impaired his memory. He has to spend more time memorizing his lines. Anthony is putting in a lot of effort, but the results are not satisfactory, because he is not proficient with the lines. The auditions are not going well. Fortunately, the director came up with a solution. Anthony studied at a church school for 5 years. He knows a lot of the words used in mass prayers. The director incorporated them into the script. At the pre-shooting party, he introduced Father George to Anthony. Father George will serve as a film consultant, helping Anthony perform his role well. Helen returns to her bedroom. She encounters Cindy, the female lead. She is a fan of Cindy. They meet for the first time, but have a pleasant conversation. They arrange to meet on the set, since Helen was expelled from school, so Anthony asks her to be his assistant. Helen will be with the crew all the time. On the day of the shoot, father and daughter arrive at the set together. The staff leads them to the makeup room. Helen encounters Cindy. The assistant is holding some strange things, and fumigating her with smoke. Cindy explains, it's a common practice in horror films. Famous exorcism movies, such as The Omen and The Exorcist, have experienced supernatural events on set. Therefore, she is used to, before starting to shoot, perform a simple exorcism ritual. Furthermore, before the director found Anthony, the original male lead for this film died unexpectedly, and it happened on the set. Cindy feels it's better to be cautious about such matters. The two of them arrive at the props room. On the table, there is a lifelike model of Anthony's head, because it's so realistic that it makes people feel scared. At this moment, the staff is adjusting Cindy's animatronic model. Due to it not being fully perfected, the machine experiences a short circuit. This scene is indeed quite strange. Cindy leads Helen to continue the tour. She asks Helen about the reason for her expulsion from school. Helen explains, she poured a bucket of red paint onto the principal's luxury car, because the principal had maliciously fired a school counselor. Helen protested in this way. In front of them is a bedroom set. The room doesn't have any scary elements, yet it gives off an eerie atmosphere. On the other side, Anthony has finished his makeup. This appearance makes him feel like he's back in his days at the church school. It's not a pleasant memory. The first scene starts quickly. Anthony, portraying Father Arlington, knocks on Miss Carlyle's door to exorcise her daughter. Everything is going smoothly here, but Helen is lying on the bed at this moment, browsing Cindy's social media. She accidentally taps on a like button, and just as she regrets it, suddenly, a knocking sound is heard. It seems to come from Anthony's room. Helen immediately goes to investigate. She finds the door won't open, and as she's about to return to her room, the door behind her opens by itself. Could it be that her father has returned? Helen calls out her father's name. She walks over to check, but there is no one inside. She turns around and leaves the bedroom, found that Anthony was standing not far away. Helen startled him. Anthony doesn't know why he's standing in the hallway. They both think it's sleepwalking. They aren't aware of the seriousness of the situation. The next day of filming, Anthony is in poor condition. He failed several times. The director pulls him aside for a conversation. The tone and content are very serious. After all, Anthony is just a minor actor. After the director scolds him, he prepares to return to the hanging lamp above him suddenly falls down. If he had been a step slower, he would have been hit for sure. The director is very angry. Anthony leaves the set to calm himself. He wants to open a bottle of beer. He rummages through a drawer and finds a script. There's a crucifix lying beneath the booklet. Looks like the style commonly used by priests in church schools. Anthony sits down and flips through the script. It's covered in doodles and annotations. He flips the book further back, and memories of pain come rushing back. The priest from the church school seemed to have done something very inappropriate to the students, and Anthony was one of the victims. The last page of the script reads, I know you. You won't be saved. Anthony is earnestly reading the line, until Helen comes to find her. The father and daughter familiarize themselves with the script together. Helen hopes to help her father get back to his current state. However, Anthony feels very unwell. He decides to go back to his room and rest. Helen tidies up the table and prepares to sleep. She notices her father's slippers in the hallway. She finds it strange. She follows and investigates. Due to a malfunctioning ceiling light, just as she's about to turn on her phone, she drops her phone downstairs. Helen goes to look for it. She had just picked up her phone from the ground, and the light beside her returns to normal. Anthony stands in the corner. There is his excrement on the floor. Anthony suddenly approaches closely and then disappears. When Helen realizes what's happening, he has already gone back upstairs. Helen thinks her father's illness has relapsed, and tells him to call the doctor for new medication. Don't get addicted to drugs again. The 11th day of boot. Anthony's performance is getting worse. Helen is very worried about her father's condition. She knows he has started drinking again. On that day, Helen says goodbye to Cindy and returns home. She sees Anthony sitting in her bedroom, with scattered printed papers on the floor. Anthony is covered in bloodstains, emanating the smell of alcohol. He doesn't even know what he has done. And where did all these bloodstains come from? Helen is extremely disappointed. She doesn't want to go through her father's drug abuse again. The pain of forced withdrawal. She plans to move out.
Where are you gonna go?
This situation is definitely beyond what a human can do. Helen realizes that her father is likely being controlled by something. On the 15th day of filming, she goes to meet her father, and Anthony realizes that he might unintentionally harm his daughter. He asks Helen to resign from her assistant position and go back to studying. Helen doesn't follow her father's advice, and she goes with Cindy to seek help from Father George. She describes Anthony's strange behavior and plays an audio recording where Anthony was murmuring in Latin. Only Father George understands Latin. He hears Anthony mention the demon Moro, which is the name of a demon in a horror movie. George believes that Anthony has been deeply affected by the role, recalling traumatic experiences from his time in Catholic school, and that it has nothing to do with a demon. He promises Helen that he will find time to talk to Anthony. In the evening, George searches for information about Moro. It has weird horns, cradling a baby in its arms. Just then, the metronome on the table suddenly starts ticking. At the same time, Anthony is plagued by a nightmare. He dreamed of the priest pouring wine into his mouth, and his fingers brush against the lips of a young boy. The scene cuts to the film set, where a portrait of the demon Maro is displayed. In a deserted corner, in front of it lies a baby boy who was used as a tribute. The filming continues until the 18th day. This scene is where Anthony performs an exorcism for Cindy's character. He started coughing halfway through the shoot, despite several attempts. It is not successful. The director has seen the scandalous reports about the Catholic school. He asks Anthony to recall his own experience at the age of 12. Remember how the priest used to abuse the students? Channel this anger into the film. Anthony walks towards the camera on the first floor. He tears off his Roman collar. He turns around in front of the camera. Anthony's bones creaked. The body is bent to incredible angles. He starts pounding the ground with his hands. Everyone was so frightened that they could not move in place. The next second a thunder sounded. The set plunges into darkness. Only a desk lamp on the first floor emits a warm glow. Anthony sits upright in his chair. Helen approaches to wake her father. The director can no longer tolerate this situation. He asks York to replace Anthony. That night, York stays on the set to familiarize himself with the lines. Suddenly, the lights malfunction. Lights turn on in the nearby dressing room. York goes over to search for props. He finds a priest's outfit and puts it on, hoping to adapt to the new role. He recites his lines in front of the mirror. In the next moment, Anthony breaks the mirror and appears. He grabs York's throat, until York stops breathing. The next day, Cindy and Helen receive the news of York's death. The director decides to halt the filming. While Helen is comforting Cindy, Anthony spits out the medicine prescribed by the doctor. Helen hears his roar. She rushes to the master bedroom to check. Anthony is sick again. She asks Cindy to go find help. She stays behind to watch over her father. Anthony pushes Helen away. The two wanted to call the police, but Anthony rushed over. He grabs Helen and throws her onto the table, leaving a blood mark on the girl's face. Cindy grabs a kettle and smashes it at Anthony. Anthony ran to the French window. It's her father's body. Helen tries to stop him, but the other party has already fallen out of the window. There is no body outside the window. Helen can sense that her father is still there. She pleads with Father George to perform an exorcism on her father. After Father George prepares, he enters the bedroom set. The door closes. The lights go out as well. Helen follows with a flashlight to investigate, but she finds no one inside. The priest's Bible is still on the floor. She tries to pick it up, but the Bible suddenly slides to the other side. Helen gathers her courage and picks up the book. Unexpectedly, Anthony appears. Father George and Cindy sit on her left and right, respectively. They have already been possessed by Anthony. Helen opens the Bible and begins to recite silently. The demon hidden within Anthony keeps whispering, "This man is not worth saving at all. He has failed to fulfill his fatherly duties. He even betrayed his wife who had cancer. Why haven't you given up on him?" Helen is not swayed by the temptation. The demon was enraged by her attitude.
"You are not my father."
Father George and Cindy also regain consciousness. The priest walked up to the devil. He says he is willing to take the punishment in place of Anthony. The devil reached out and pressed the priest's chest. Painful memories belonging to Anthony surface. The past of being humiliated by the priest is never forgotten. That's why Anthony abandoned his faith. He became the target of the demon. George buys him some time. Anthony, now sober, picks up the Bible. After 40 years, he prays to the Heavenly Father once again, seeking his mercy and redemption. Fortunately, this time, Anthony finally receives a response from the Lord. He forced the demon onto the bed, but it cannot be completely removed.
You cannot be saved, immortal one!
In a critical moment, Anthony grabs the crucifix. He impales Father George's head with it. The demon emits a scream. His entire face and body are consumed by intense flames. Everything is engulfed in flames. This story comes to an end. It was initially thought to be a traditional exorcist horror film, but it was in the name of exorcism, to tell the story of an actor who was molested by a priest during his youth. He achieves personal redemption through making films related to his experiences, and feature films that expose the dark side of film and television sets, all shot on a dimly lit set. Switching back and forth with Anthony's home. Startling flash effect. Is it creating an atmosphere? In the final scene, Anthony picks up the crucifix and stabs the demon. In fact, it symbolizes his triumph over his inner demons and stepping out of the shadow. If you enjoy my channel, please give me a subscription.